Good morning and welcome to Gluten-Free Angela Web TV. So, you may be watching live, you may be watching on the replay. A big welcome to you. And I launched this because I thought there were lots and lots of cookery programs on TV, but there is nothing that's dedicated for people like you and me who are gluten-free. Whether you're celiac, whether it's your diet, whether it's another reason, there's lots of us now who just cannot eat gluten. So what am I going to be sharing with you today? Well, I'm going to be doing, and we will see how this goes, a live taste test and demonstration of how to make the coconut tarts. All right, so I'll pop them there for you. You may remember them from the good old days before we went gluten-free. And when I had to go gluten-free, I missed all of those things that I used to whip up in a few minutes. I baked since I was about 18 months old, I think. And when I went gluten-free, I could not believe the disasters I was having, irrespective of what books I bought and tried to bake from. It was just terrible. So hence why I went back to all of my old recipe books and converted them one by one. Now, sometimes I may be using cheap ingredients and sometimes I may be doing them from scratch. And I've got two options for you today to make these lovely, rich coconut tarts. So if you remember them from years and years ago, I think on a weekend, our grandparents used to make beautiful tarts and cakes, and I always had these at my grandma's. She used to bake every Friday and she was well known for them. So I've recreated them. As I said, I've got a cheats way and I've got a normal way, and I'm going to be sharing that with you. Also, in every program, so that every time we go live, I am going to be showcasing a brand new product that I personally have never tried before. Gluten-free products are more expensive than normal products, so we have to be very cautious and precious with our pounds. And I saw, and I will share this with you, I saw something in the supermarket the other day, and this is what I'm going to be taste testing. It is an apple tart. It was in the freezer department. So let's go live and let's start baking, because these little beauties need to bake. So I hope you've got a cup of tea. I've certainly got mine. I'll just wash my hands and then we'll get going. And I'm not doing the coronavirus taste, hand washing. I'm just getting rid of any residue. So anyway, I was talking about pastry. And we're going to the supermarket, and because we're in lockdown, there's lots of reasons why we just can't get hold of flour. And while I was self-isolating, I had to self-isolate for 3 weeks. A friend, a lovely friend, thank you, Lisa, was shopping for me. And I just said, oh, can you get me some gluten-free flour mix? I thought that she was going to the normal supermarket that I get the flour mix from. Anyway, she went to a different one. So I ended up with this one from Morrison's. And I have to say, the reason why I'm going to actually do this live for you is because I thought it had gone terribly wrong when I tried it. And actually, it's some of the most beautiful pastry I've ever tried in my life. And this is what happens sometimes. Like in lockdown, I couldn't get my normal pastry mix, because I do use a pastry mix sometimes. So, something to do, whenever you empty that packet out, it is just flour. And when we're talking about gluten-free, we're not using wheat. There are different flour blends, and they absorb fat and liquids differently. So when we buy a packet of flour, gluten-free flour, we're never quite sure what the blend is or the ratios are or how fine the flours have been ground. So I'm just putting in a little sprinkling. Honestly, this is tiny sprinkling, not 3 big pinches of salt, and just mix that. And then what we want is 90 grams of butter or margarine. Now, you may be dairy-free as well. And a very, very good friend, Lynn, advised me years ago when I started baking for her when she was gluten-free, that stock block is actually suitable for vegans. So if you're dairy free, this is fine. If you're buying other supermarket brands, just have a look on the wrapper, on the ingredients, because some of them say it may contain buttermilk. But last time I checked, this was absolutely fine. Just needs a little bit more. So this is what we do when we have limited stocks. I'm going to normal stock because I'm not dairy free. Although I will bake dairy free for people all the time. And I know when I bake cakes, they go down really well. Right, so that's it. You just want a little bit of margarine to put in the bowl. I'm using a glass bowl. And I know that we always say to cut that up. So yes, do cut it up slightly. But this is one of the best pastries you'll ever make. And I know when I did make it, my mum could not tell. So I went from being a really, really good pastry maker when I was younger. And suddenly, I couldn't make pastry because it was all gluten free. And I couldn't get used to it at all. And then I think I tried a few different packet mixes that were yuck. They were terrible. I tried most of the recipes out there. And you may be wondering why I'm recommending packet mixes so much. Well, one of my favourite gluten-free recipes for a pastry has almond flour in it. And it's defatted. And it costs £15 for a packet. And that's out of a lot of people. I did it as part of my research and development. However, most people wouldn't spend that amount of money on it. So that's why it's what's available to us. And when I went to the supermarket yesterday, because I did test this yesterday, I couldn't buy a bag of flour in Morrison's, but I could buy these little packets for, I think, 90 pence, 80 or 90 pence. So they're really good. So that's that bit done. Let's just rinse my hands. I'm not fully cleaning them because I need to do this soon. Right, next thing is an egg. Egg is critically important, really is. And if you recognise these, this was another grandma's. So this is quite old as well. So we just break an egg. Again, old fork as well. And put that in there. Now, you will think this has gone wrong. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this recipe, because the first time I did this, I did say it's just horrible. It was gloopy, it was sticky. And I said to my mum, because I do use this for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I said, that's going in the bin. She said, no, try it. So what it does not say on the packet is to add some moisture to it as well. But I'm not going to. So let me just introduce my beautiful friend Robert, who is here to help, and he's going to be
good morning, Angela,
and everything. That's dirty hands. So hello and welcome.
You're doing a
Robert.
lovely job. You're doing a lovely job.
Huh? Oh, thank you very much. So, as I said, I really want to show you this, because if you got this sticky mess that feels wet, you would put it in the bin. But honestly, this is brilliant. It really is. So I'm going to roll them out. I've got some that I prepared earlier. I'm going to roll these out and then start with the filling as well. And you will be horrified at how complex it can be. But once you've done it once and you realise that it's supposed to look really, really thick and gloopy, you'll be fine. Now, people say about rolling out pastry on cling film. Forget that idea. Cling film sticks. It will stick to you. It will stick to your rolling pin. It's an absolute nightmare. So always use baking paper. I love the Bako foil, but you can use whatever you want. Just as long as it's non-stick. You need 2 sheets of that, and you may need to replace it as well. So, just wondered where my rolling pin was then. And I really want to get rid of a lot of this fear about pastry. So you can see that stuff is just sticking to my hand. It feels disgusting. Now, because you're using there are normal flours in here and not wheat flour. With wheat, you've got to be careful about not overworking it. Don't worry about this stuff. Honestly, you could throw it at the wall and it'd still be okay. So it sticks. It's all over my hands. That's why you need this. And this is where we just start to roll out. Oops, let me just move that for you. And we will need to get these in the oven. So that's it. Look, it's sticking to the paper. You think it's going wrong, but honestly, it's not. When you look at it, it will be stuck to the bottom. It'll be stuck to the top. Really just persevere and don't worry. And a little tip that I do, here's some that I put in a little bit earlier. I try and put this in the fridge. Put them in just for a few minutes before it goes in. So here goes. Get ready to do this. You need a palette knife or a butter knife, and then what you're going to do is just slide it underneath and pull that off, and it's going to look sticky and you're going to think it needs to go in the bin. No, it doesn't. Just pull it back into a circle if you want. And I know, you know, when I went gluten-free, I was, this is really, really sticky because it hasn't been in the fridge. So we're going to do a couple more, but I've got one out there. So don't hold it against me. I did all these earlier. But it does really benefit from just cooling down that fat. The other thing I found as well, if you can tolerate butter, I do like them done with butter. That's my go-to ingredient. Right, let's have a go at just getting this off. And this is why so many people don't do their own gluten-free pastry, and why we just think that we can't have things. And do you know what? We can. But while we're in lockdown, just try this packet mix. And even when we're not in lockdown, I used to buy it from a different supermarket. I don't think they're making theirs anymore, which is a shame. So I'm promoting Morrison's now. So here we go. Can you see? That's, if you make them a little bit thicker, it's a bit easier to roll out. And just because of time, I am going to do those later because I've got some more in there. I'll just do one more. No, I won't. I'll see how many I can get done. Okay. Look at the shape of that one. Honestly, it doesn't look nice and tidy, but just pull them and then put them down. So we've got 11 in there. The rest of that, just scoop it up. That's what we do to re-roll it. Looks like shoe pastry from the olden days, doesn't it? Right, so I'm just going to stick that in the bin. You do need quite a lot of this. And get on with the filling. Now, if you're not gluten-free, then you can just use normal pastry for you. But here is one of my favourite toppings. And all we're going to do is put 2 ounces of butter in. Yes, I am old-fashioned. I like my ounces. And 2 ounces of sugar. That's it. And a tiny pinch of salt. And people wonder why I put in a tiny pinch of salt. A tiny pinch of salt balances the flavours and it enhances the flavours that you got in there. If you don't put salt in the tiniest bit, then the first hit you get is the taste of sugar. So it just gives it a nicer dimension. Where did I put my, oh, here it is. So here's my spoon, sorry. Here we go, we're just going to do this old style. Please do it by hand. If you do it in a mixer, what will happen is it will get too whipped, and that's not what you want. You just want it mixed. So I'll show you the consistency, and this takes just a few seconds. So what you will have is something that looks like that. Okay, so it's still pretty much together, and I'm going to add 1 egg, and I don't even bother to beat my egg. I just put that straight in, and I start to mix that. And it will look, we call it curdled, I suppose, in the baking world, don't we? So I'll just show you this. If we weren't in lockdown, I could have camera people here, but we are in lockdown. So there we go. You can see it looks curdled. And now I'm just going to put in 2 ounces of desiccated coconut, and that's it. That is the topping for these little beauties. So we've got the pastry on the bottom. We're going to put a little bit of jam in, and then put these on top as well. And they just cook for 20 minutes. That is it. So let me get rid of that, and that, and that.
I just want to say, if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat box, and we'll read them out as we go. And we have some pre-submitted questions as well for as we go through. So when you've got a bit of time, Angela, do say, and I'll start reading them out.
Oh yeah, well we'll just a couple of minutes, and then we'll get on with those. Yes, I know that I had a few panicked people yesterday just saying that I can't make it. Don't worry. If I've got your question before we go live, then that's it. I can answer it. So any questions you've got, please ask. Oh, should explain what I'm doing. About 3/4 of a teaspoon of jam. And again, this may sound strange, but sometimes the cheaper jams work better in jam tarts because some of the thicker preserves don't seem to even out when they're heated as much, but just use whatever jam you have. This is actually, it's bramble jelly. It wasn't expensive. It was from Morrison's. I shop in every supermarket. My favourite brand of gluten-free flour is actually Marks and Spencer's plain flour for things like pastry. Really love that one. But when it comes to self-raising flour, and I think I'm going to go through that in a little while, just a little bit about flour blends. For cakes, really any will do. So there, we've got jam in each of them. Okay, so just about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now we're going to put this on top. So we use about that much. Just put it on top, and we want it to fall on top. So we want to get nice little jagged edges, because they're the ones that are going to catch in the oven and give us that lovely brown effect. So there is absolutely no way that you want to be smooth or precise with these. Just drop it on. And this should be enough for 12. So if you're doing more, just double it, but it's 2, 2, 2 and an egg. And I love recipes like that. Most of my recipes are 1 bowl, you stick it all together. And when you stop working with wheat flour, you find that you can be a little bit harsher with some of the products because they don't act in the same way as wheat does. So we're nearly ready, and then I've been preheating the oven. These are going to go in, and we will take them out. And I'm sorry that you can't test them as well at the same time. And Robert, I should have sent some of these down to you, shouldn't I? Don't worry, when I eventually get back home, you can have some. Because this isn't my kitchen, okay? This is my mum and dad's kitchen. I'm actually up north while we're in lockdown. And I have been here. Have I been here for 7 weeks now? I think it is. 7. Is it 8? Been here a long time. So that's the other thing, you know, I've got all of my flours that I collect and get over the years at home, but I'm here with absolutely no gluten-free products. So it's about being careful with cost, and also at the moment we just can't get everything that we want. So here we are. You can see those are not even. There's bits where the jam's going to spludge out as well, because that's what I like, and they go in for 20 minutes. So that's those in there. Okay, be back in a minute. Right. Did you have some questions, Robert?
Margaret said, "Are all gluten-free flours the same?"
Oh, yes, I knew there was a reason to talk about flours. So, no, they're not. They're not all the same. Every brand is different. Give me 1 second. And the other thing that you'll find is brands change their flours. So you could have got used to using one brand, but they will change something like the rice flour in it. And it may be that it's more coarse or it's finer ground. And whenever they grind it differently, you don't really notice it so much in cakes, but you will really notice it in pastry and in bread, because you have to have your bread or pastry ratio to liquid very exact for it to work. And that's why I love the packet mix pastry, because they are testing it constantly. And if the some of the flours changed, then they'd modify the quantities of the flour so it still worked with the ingredients on the pack. So I always find for cakes, you can use anything. I've used Asda's Own, I've used, what are the other ones? Duff's Farm. I do like Marks and Spencer's, but at the moment we're all struggling to get flour from anywhere. So just get whatever you can, and it will be brilliant for, as I said, for cakes. For pastry and bread, you really have to test it a few times. And it's strange, whenever I see a company publish a recipe, and some people say this is brilliant, and some people say it's not, and that's because they'll be using a different flour. So if that answers, let me know. Hopefully that's okay. Cheers, Robert. Have we got any more?
Trying to.
And I might not have the answer to everything. I might have to go away and try and find out.
Sorry,
So
I should also explain. I'm trying to give technical support to other people who are trying to log in. From Joyce, can I have the recipe of the cake with all the fruit that's on your page?
There's two different ones that I can think of. There's a plain one with strawberries on, but if it was on the invite to this, that is my summer Pimm's cake. I created that and designed that a couple of years ago. I do go to a cake club as well, but they're not gluten free, so I have to have the tiniest mouthful and be very ill afterwards. But I do this to try cakes, and every so often we have a free-form event. So the reason I'm saying this is I had this recipe that I'd seen for a Pimm's cake, and I tasted it and thought, this isn't Pimm's. So I really went to town and developed the syrup that you put on a cake. And that is coming out in my book. So I've got 2 or 3 smaller ebooks, because we can't get printing, we can't get stuff like that done at the moment, can we? And I'm going to have one that contains a lot of alcohol cake. So the Pimm's cake will be there. Also my gin and tonic cake, and a whole host of other cakes in there. And I've got a couple of other books as well, like the Perfect Sunday Dinner coming out. So you will be able to get that one. And it may even be in my baking course. We were due to start that in the next couple of months and have a cookery school. I can't plan for that, so I'm going to be onlining that. So if that's something you like the look of, I might put that into the online cookery school, where it will be a very small group of people, and we bake and I help you in your own kitchen. So there's 2 things coming out, but yes, I think it's the Pimm's cake. And if it's the normal strawberry one, all I do is put cream on it, double cream, and then cut strawberries in half and just place them upwards. So the middle of the strawberry is facing outwards, and I just think they look beautiful. So hopefully that helps you. And let me know. Sorry, was that Joyce? Yes, okay. Joyce, if it's any others that you've seen, let me know.
I think you covered earlier, but for those that have just joined, I'm dairy free too. Can I make your recipes? And that's from Carly.
Yes, you can. I'll tell you, I'll let you into a little secret. When I baked for somebody who was gluten free, at the time I wasn't gluten free. It was way before I was. There was something.
Sorry, your mic's being a bit
Hello?
funny. Can you start that again? So the question was, I'm dairy free too. Can I make your recipes?
Yes, you can. You just need to find a dairy-free equivalent. Stock block margarine is fine. I've used cocoa as well, which is really good. And instead of using a normal milk, if you convert that and use something like almond milk, you will be fine. So yes, everything converts.
I've got a question for you. Is there anything that you have found so far that you cannot make dairy free? No, sorry, gluten free. You are an absolute whiz, and I know you do your best, but is there anything you found that you just absolutely have not been able to make gluten free?
I've never tried proper puff pastry. And to be honest, I don't really bother with bread. I made it in the early days, but then I found a lovely little bakery in Leeds. And I used to travel up to Leeds for the whole of the last year. So I buy their bread. It's beautiful. They're a small bakery. Interesting, just before this whole thing happened, they just signed the lease on a cafe just before this lockdown happened, but they pushed forward. They're sending posts, things in the post, so it's bread and flaky pastry. But no, I've done sausage rolls, I've done quiches, I do Yorkshire puddings, which is why I'm doing my own Perfect Sunday Dinner cookery book. Gravy, because you can't use oxos. You can use Knorr, but that's a stock. It doesn't taste nice. So I've got a totally brilliant product that I think was gotten just after the war that I actually use. It's gluten free and it's suitable for vegans as well. So I'll be putting that in the book. So bread and that pastry. But it's just that I've never tried it. I've never tried to do the proper puff pastry because I don't really like it myself. I never like pies with that on top. I always prefer a short crust. But I think that's a challenge for me.
Okay. So Trace just commented and said, thank you for the recommendation of the baker, Angela. She spent a fortune online yesterday and can't wait for her delivery.
I know. Actually, so if you're on my email list, you will have got the recommendation yesterday. But this is a delivery. This is the only thing I've got left. Okay, but a beautiful little Danish pastry. Lovely. And that's the Frangipani one. Mm. So, yes, Tracy, do you know what I checked? And within an hour, I think 56 people had clicked through onto their website. So I think they may have been maxed out with orders yesterday. But yeah, beautiful bakery. It's dedicated 100% gluten free, run by two lovely ladies. They've got a small dedicated team. Their whole family help. They're just setting up a cafe in Leeds. So go to Gluten Free Angela and I'll make sure that the info's on there.
That's
Is
fine.
that okay?
There's no more questions. But
Right.
I wanted to tell you that I have uploaded those screenshots you wanted.
Oh, thank you. So now we're going to do this taste test. And I feel a bit mean actually, because what happens if this taste test is horrible? But when I go around to the supermarket, I think I mentioned that what I loved earlier, when I was in lockdown, my friend Lisa was going out and doing shopping for me. So when I said, can you get me some pastry mix, she got me a different supermarket brands. And I thought, oh no. And she also tried different biscuits because I said, could you get me some biscuits? So she was getting different gluten-free biscuits. And some of them I absolutely loved. So I've got this here. That is right. There's two things you can do. You can either just defrost them. You get 2 pieces in a pack for £3 something. I don't know. And it's called luxury apple pie. And I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've never seen it before. It was in the chiller. But it's called Kirsty's. Small but passionate bunch that have been thoughtfully creating healthy and delicious ready meals for nearly 10 years. So, Kirsty, I really hope that this tastes nice. But there's not many calories in it because most of it is apple. I'll just show you there. Can you see how much apple's in here? Nice bit of pastry, and you can either just defrost it or put it in the oven from frozen for 21 minutes. I'm sure it said 21 minutes. So here goes. I'm going to try a little bit of the apple first. That is fantastic. It tastes of apples. My fear is always that there's too much sugar in, and the pieces of apples have kept whole. So I don't know if they're all bakers or maybe there are some pieces of a non-baker apple, so they keep more firm. I'll just have a quick taste of the bottom. That's delicious. I have to say that is absolutely brilliant. So why do I want to do this for you guys? Well, sometimes we might be going to somebody's house for dinner, not at the moment because we're not going out to dinner parties at the moment, but when they say I don't know what to do for you, if you can then say, if you can find some Kirsty's or I will bring them with you, you can stick them in the oven for me 21 minutes and that's my dessert sorted. Or just having some of these in the freezer is brilliant. So I have to say, normally I have to put lots of cream on. Oh, I do like cream anyway, but normally I have to put lots on to dampen down the sugar taste, but that is delicious. So I have to say, absolute 10 out of 10 for Kirsty's. So hopefully you won't fear spending £3 or something on that. There's two pieces in the pack. Do you know what the other thing is really nice as well? And it's the little things sometimes that is all the detail. That is not in plastic. That is in cardboard. So there's the tiniest bit of plastic there. I bet if I looked, it's probably recyclable. But in here it says, so there are almonds on it, and you can see the almonds on top. There's nuts, peanuts, soy, milk, and eggs in the production line. It's a factory that does those. So if you're hypersensitive, then possibly not for you. But if you're gluten-free, that is absolutely knockout. So that will be going back in the freezer, and I'll be having that for a late breakfast before the next show, which is right after this. Right. So apple pie. Yes, please spend your money on this. I would say yes. I'm sure there's going to be some weeks when I try something that I think, nah. And on that point, only two, 3 years ago, I tried some of Morrison's own brand things and I practically spit them out because all I could taste was sugar. I couldn't taste chocolate, but they have really changed their product line. So their pasta's fine. Yeah. So next time I go shopping, I'll try Asda or Marx's or another one that's out there, Sainsbury's, and let you know about some of their products. But
I have to say, I've been with you quite often when we've been out for lunch and dinner, and you've always struggled to find desserts that you can eat. But that does look so nice, and I love how much filling is in there. Because as you said earlier on, when you buy things that are gluten-free, they tend to be more expensive. But that just looks lovely.
It's not sharp, but you can taste the tartness of the apples. It's, to be honest, I haven't had an apple pie that good, certainly out of a supermarket, ever. So, and you know what? I don't like spending my money on something that I don't like, even if it's cheap. I'd rather just save up a little bit and splash out every so often. But I think me and my mum will really enjoy that later. So that's that. So I've got a few other products I want to recommend to you as well. Any more questions, Robert? Right, fab.
Please do ask any questions that you do have, people, and I will read them out to Angela so that she's not having to juggle reading questions and balancing cooking. Angela, you've got 5 minutes left until they're ready.
Have I? Thank you. So I'm one of those people, I don't really time things. I did when I cook professionally for people, I do. But when it's for me in my own home, I cook as I used to, i.e. it feels about 20 minutes, let me just check. So some of us do cook. I call it cooking by ear or baking by ear. And last weekend, I made a bolognese sauce. And I tried this stuff, and it's not cheap. It's called muti. It's Italian. I found it in my local deli, my local farm shop, and the taste was out of this world. And I know that when we try and get a bolognese sauce, because sometimes we want to do something a bit quicker, a little easier, a lot of them do have wheat in, or a lot of them, I just find I struggle, because as soon as there's artificial sweeteners in something, I get a raging thirst. So I really do struggle. I can't drink diet drinks. And who knows what intolerance that is that I've got. But this is beautiful. And as soon as I put that in, the taste was out of this world. So I am going to put that in one of my recipe books. But I did it in the slow cooker. And what I do is I cut garlic and onions and shallots and put them in a little bit of, I use dripping or oil if you want oil, and just let them fry on a really low heat for an hour. Then I add everything else, and then it goes into the slow cooker, and I actually put it in there overnight, and it went really, really dark. But that is beautiful. As I said, it's not cheap. It's £2.75, but it is worth it, and it's all natural stuff in there, and the tomatoes are brilliant as well. And I've tried the passata, so I've tried everything there. One thing I did realise though, there's an ingredient that if we're doing shepherd's pies, or if we're doing like a stag bowl, sometimes we want to put Worcester sauce in, and we can't have Worcester sauce. We can't have soy sauce, which is why we can't have barbecue things as much as we'd like to. But here is a gluten-free Worcester sauce. So I picked one up. It seems okay. And I think sometimes it just gives that punchy hit. So there are products out there. So again, it's another thumbs up. It's not quite the same as the real one, but it's good. And then these, I love these biscuits. These are ones that Lisa bought for me. Well, I did pay for them, but the stem ginger and Belgian dark chocolate cookies. We did actually try the triple or quadruple chocolate ones as well. They're nice. My mum loved them, but I still prefer these. So when we're talking about our, we have to be really conscious about what we're spending our money on. And to me, I'd rather do a bolognese once every few, not as often, and one that tastes amazing. So that the taste from that was amazing, and I didn't get that raging thirst that I get when I have a lot of the shall we say normal jars. And you've got to be really careful because a lot of them have got wheat flour in, or something that might cause us issues. And I think my go-to is I can tell when I've eaten gluten because all of a sudden I just get problems with my skin. And I didn't realize until I was listening to an American who was being interviewed about being celiac, that she said sometimes it's not stomach issues that people get, sometimes it's skin issues. And so I know back in my early 20s or mid 20s, that's when all of that came on. So I battled with this for years and years and years, not knowing what on earth it was. But yeah, so those are 3 products that I absolutely rate. Try them for yourself. We've all got different tastes. As I said, I'm not as keen on the triple chocolate ones, but if you don't like ginger, try them. And what I did like about the chocolate ones were, it wasn't that hit of sugar that you get with a lot of them. So they're starting to spend a little bit more on the ingredients as well, which is really good to see. So is that okay? Am I nearly ready to take these out, do you think?
You've got about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Sometimes if you're a baker, you just have this sixth sense that you need to be doing something, and it's normally about the right time. But sometimes somebody may ring on the phone, and sometimes there's been a cake in the oven for too long. So, any more questions?
In the chat at the moment, Brigitte, Mutti is what I used to call my mum.
Oh, yes, of course it is. Do you know what? When I was looking at this, I thought I've heard the word mutti before, so maybe it is mum.
No, I've just googled it. So Mutti is named after the founder of the company, but Mutti is what they call mum in Germany.
Ah, absolutely. Well, we're talking about mutti. So as I said, that's £2.75. I'm afraid I don't know how much that is. I don't know how much that is. I did it in a shop, and I've got some of those as well. Finely chopped tomatoes. The intense flavour is just incredible. But then again, they have better summers than we do, so I'd expect that.
Yes, and when you read the history of Mutti, that's what they started with. It's their tomatoes. And then in the 60s, I think it was, they then started to put them in tins. And then in the 70s or 80s, they started to put the jar sauces together, from what I very quickly saw.
Oh, wow, thank you ever so much. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. You can research this while I'm trying to go live and bake and cook and everything. So absolutely recommend them. I know it's more expensive, but this is a treat for you. I always say if we're gluten-free, we have to go without so often. I know, Robert, you mentioned when we go out for lunch, a lot of the time, if I say, have you got any gluten-free cake? Oh, we've got vegan. Well, that's great. I'm just going to keel over, aren't I, if I eat that? So we have to go without. So often, what we can eat is a salad or a jacket potato. So every so often, I say treat yourself. And I think you'd be quite happy with that. And I know, Tracy, you've treated yourself to some of that lovely bread. You will be impressed with it.
Oh, over 20 minutes for the cooking.
Right,
but on the subject of Tracy, she says, Angela, you're going to eat all those tarts and the ones you're cooking too. I may have to drive up to Leeds and help you out, but naturally keeping my distance.
You are more than welcome. Bring the family. We can social distance. Apparently, we can drive as far as we want to now, can't we?
It seems silly, but yes, we can. It seems silly, but yes, we can.
Huh? I know. I just can't get my head around it. It just seems a little bit strange. But I'll just try and show you those. So they've come out. And sometimes it's the simple things that we really miss. We know that we can find some beautiful place in London to give us a decadent cake with a, you know, £75 price tag. I know that can happen, but sometimes we just want something to eat with a cup of tea. And jam tarts, coconut tarts, you know, a simple jam sponge. These are all things that when you go gluten-free, what we're faced with in the supermarkets often aren't that great. And I know that for some of the gluten-free cakes, you know, the ones I like, if I buy them, you know, nearly £100 for a cake, no, I'm not going to do it. I'll go and have a piece every so often, but I'm not going to do that. So here we go. And right, I'm just going to take one out. Do you know what? I was asking my mum the other day and she said, oh, no, use one of these. So always use a butter knife to take these out. But if we take it out, hopefully you can hear this. So no soggy bottom at all. And I can't believe how good the packet mix is. Some is packet mix and some's my recipe. If I didn't give you my recipe, you use 6 ounces of flour, 3 ounces of fat, and I think it's one very, very, very large egg. So when you look at your eggs, pick the largest up because that egg really helps them. So that's what you need. If you're baking in winter, again, atmosphere can affect it. If it seems very dry, my own recipe that I put together isn't as sticky as that supermarket one. But if it still seems a bit dry, add 1 tablespoon of milk, then another tablespoon of milk, then another tablespoon of milk. So up to about 4. But in the summer, there's so much moisture. The atmosphere is just different. It's not moisture in the atmosphere. I don't know what it is, but in the summer, I do find I don't have to put as much liquid in there. It's probably because the oil in the butter, etc. But these are them. Oh, I'm sorry you can't have one, peeps. But I think these I just had in a little bit longer. I've now got jam tarts. I made some jam tarts earlier. So the good old-fashioned jam tart. We've got coconut tarts. Do what you want. But I think pastry is the bane of most gluten-free people's lives. And if it's a bit of a bane, just try the Morrison's packet mix. You've seen the gloop. You will think it's gone wrong, but it hasn't.
We have a question from Tracy who says, have you managed to make or find a gluten-free sausage roll that tastes nice?
If I make
and
my
how
own,
do you do
yes.
that?
I use packet short crust. I make them with short crust because I like short crust. However, this is a taste test that I might do for next week, especially for you. I did buy that. I have to say, every single puff pastry sheet I have tried up until now, I've hated. So I might try that this time. I will say that before lockdown, I noticed that Asda had launched their own puff pastry sheet, but I'm now in a different house because I had to come up to look after my parents. So that was in the bottom of the fridge, so it will be in the bin now. And I haven't seen any in Asda's to buy. So I will try that. I just haven't found a puff pastry that I really like gluten-free. So I normally do it with the key actually is getting your sausage meat or sausages, and you have to put extra moisture in there. So what I tend to do is I tend to put some onions in as well. So I'll fry some onions, caramelize them, chop them up really fine, and then I mix it with the whatever type of meat you want to use. and then I will put them into a sausage style thing, put it in the fridge just so they firm up, and then I will put a short crust pastry outer coating on. But we'll see what these are like next week. That's next week's test. Is that all right, Tracy? Hopefully it is.
Lovely.
So let me just double check. Right, so we've done a live bake. Here we go. All finished, all presently correct, and they are absolutely delicious. If I have, I probably need to sample one. I'm going to take the one that's dipped a little bit and gone over the side a bit. The pastry is just so light. It really is just like short crust pastry. My own pastry is nice as well, but what you find is you have to blend the flours together to get the right ratio, and then you have to make sure that certainly the rice flour is ground to the right texture, and it's just too difficult in my book. So I don't have time for stuff like that, you know. I will look for the right solution. So my own recipe is fine, but you just have to be careful with how much milk you may have to add. And they're beautiful. They really are. So nobody who's gluten-free should go without pastry. You can use this pastry for quiche, sausage rolls. I make pies with it. If I have chicken left after the Sunday dinner, I will use the chicken, put some vegetables in there as well. And then I've always got some of those packet mixers. I normally have 10 in the cupboard at any one time, and I'll put it on the base and I'll put it on the top. If I haven't got them in, then I'll make it from scratch. But I just find it's easier. It's all ready, weighed out. So yeah, make your own stuff. Let's have a look. I think I've done. Oh, how much time have we got?
About 5 minutes.
Right, I'm going to give you an additional little tip. As I said, I do go to a cake club, and the first time we had cake club in lockdown, so many people were saying, I've only got a third of bag of flour left. This is the one I'm using at the moment. There is no self-raising flour at all anywhere that I can find, so I'm using that. And put in some baking powder in. I found this in the farm shop as well. When I look on the back, it's absolutely fine. So that's fine to use if you're gluten-free. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because sometimes we just haven't got much flour left, have we? So if you've only got a little bit of flour left, I made this last night, so just before I went to bed, I thought, oh, if I've got 5 minutes spare. And it's about conserving. So what we do, if you haven't got loads, cut your cake in half like that. You will fill it with cream, with jam, and then you'll place that on top, and that's enough for a couple of people in a household for a few days. So that's what I do an awful lot of the time, and that means that you haven't got a big cake sitting around forever. But just a little tip, yeah. So that's what I do, and what I'm going to do is I've got some of these gorgeous Belgian strawberries. So I'm going to cut these. When I cut my strawberries, cut them in half. So they look like that. And then on the top of the cake, I will position them like that all around. So that's what you see from the outside of the cake. So if you've got a packet mix in, do that. If you've got your own basic cake mix, do that. If you really want to do the Pim's cakes and things like that, they're really easy. It's just knowing the skills or how to blend or how to make the syrups. And they're going to be coming up in my baking course and also my recipe book. But that's just a little tip. So you're not using all your flour up when flour at the moment is in short supply. So hopefully that's a nice little tip for you as well.
Good, thank you for that.
Okay.
It is, yes.
Is it just about time? Well, you know what? I hope that you've either seen some really good ingredients or had a little bit of confidence to go out there and get a packet mix. Can I just say, before I went gluten-free, I never touched a packet mix ever in my life. I was really anti them. But when it came to trying the pastry, I tried it once and I thought, you know what? I will never, ever slate packet mixes ever again because the pastry is really good. So try that. Make yourself some lovely coconut tarts. Remember, the topping is 2 ounces of margarine or butter, 2 ounces of sugar, just mixed up, 2 ounces of desiccated coconut, and an egg. Just put them on top, and there's no blind baking at all in the gluten-free world. It all goes crispy when it's in there. So don't worry about a soggy bottom. It doesn't happen. Okay, so I think that's about it. I want to say a huge thank you for joining me. We will be going live again next weekend. I believe at 9 o'clock next time, and have a brilliant week. Hope you've been inspired and try some of those products as well. They're delicious. Okay, and thank you so much, Robert. Thank you for helping with the chat and all the tech stuff. You're an absolute star. Okay, this is Gluten Free Angela.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time. Bye.